I'll start off just with some brief introductions. So really pleased to be joined by Philip Adams from Mercury Engineering on today's call. He's the IT director and has been with the business for just under 18 years and manages the overall IT strategy. He's also quite involved in the SAP user group here in the UK and Ireland. I'm Rob Shropshire. I manage new business and partner channels for Neptune Software in the UK and Ireland. My CV, unfortunately, isn't quite as impressive as Philip's, although I have spent 8 years working in architecture, engineering and construction. So I'd like to think that I have a good understanding of the challenges the sector faces. Quick run through the agenda. We'll share some insights and talk to you a little bit about how we think the platform fits in with a professional services or construction business. I'll then pass over to Philip, who will talk about their business and how they've implemented our technology and what they're doing with it. We'll then finish off with some additional examples of how our platform might be used in the context of a project or construction-based business, and then a short wrap-up. Plenty of time for questions, so please feel free to ask them. We'll be monitoring them throughout, and we'll look to get those answered at the end. Total runtime for the webinar will be about 30 minutes. So as I was doing some research online, they all really point to the same thing, and that's that in general projects are running over budget, and some projects are taking longer to finish. Going over budget is a problem in any business, of course, but it's particularly relevant in construction, where profit margins are already being squeezed, and I think that's due to how competitive the tender processes typically are. And then you compare that to technology spend across other sectors, and you can see that construction is way below pretty much all of the other sectors in terms of how much of their revenue they invest in technology. I certainly don't have all of the answers today, so I'll let the audience think about why that is. So the good news is that there is lots of opportunity to innovate across your organization in order to increase your productivity and ultimately protect your margin. And McKinsey & Company suggest 8 possible avenues. And when you look at these, what's interesting is you could probably put all of these ideas into 3 buckets: improvement, speed, and integration. And of these 3 buckets, you could probably argue that technology is an enabler to help with all 3 of these. So in order to take advantage of these opportunities, we need to innovate, and we need to do it quickly. First and foremost, we need to look at the people in our organization who is capable of implementing the change, and are we ensuring that the right stakeholders are involved in that design development process? Do we understand the process that we're trying to change? Are we wanting to change paper processes into electronic ones? Are we wanting to streamline approval processes? Or perhaps we're wanting to provide a better experience to our clients? The final piece is technology. And do we have the right tools in place to help us develop and implement solutions quickly? And hopefully that's where we come in. I think the days of IT being solely responsible for innovation are gone. Everyone now has a role to play, and rolling out smaller solutions quickly is a better approach than waiting 12 months for a solution to be implemented and then realizing your business requirements have changed and it's no longer fit for purpose. So what is Neptune? Well, it's a low-code, rapid application development platform. And I know that's a bit of a mouthful, so I'll try and explain it in English for you. It helps you to innovate quickly and manage the entire development process of a solution with little resource. So if we pick on a few of these ideas, we help businesses build applications much quicker. And we do this by using a low-code drag and drop approach to building applications so that you can bring solutions to end users much quicker. And by making the process less technical, we can also look to engage with our operational staff and end users to get them involved in that design process to make sure that the solution fits in a real life scenario. And I think that's particularly important because most construction or professional services businesses that I speak to certainly don't have massive IT teams, and they don't have a wide skill set that's needed to deliver an application from the ground up. So anything we can do to make that easier and less technical is welcomed. We also help to integrate your data from the various applications your business is likely using, a bit like putting a blanket over all of your systems so that you can present data to the end user in one good-looking interface. Mobility is absolutely vital in construction, and I know Philip will talk more about that, but having the ability to make solutions available offline and having the ability to build something once and for it to scale automatically to a desktop, tablet, Android or iOS device. We don't want to be building 3 different applications that do the same thing just so that the user can use whatever device that they want to. And we want to help you to design and orchestrate your processes and streamline your workflows across your business and various systems. And we want to do that in a no-code or non-technical way to again allow operations to get more involved in that process to define the perfect workflow. So a last slide from me before I pass over to Philip is if we look at it in the context of delivering a project, projects typically follow this sort of process. You've got a proposal or a bid or a tender stage. Hopefully you win the work and you then start to plan that work out, and then you start to deliver that work. And across all of those 3 areas, there's certain bits of information that you're capturing in an ideal world in one system, but more too often it's in separate spreadsheets or separate applications. So the idea is to have a plan and then compare what you're doing on site to that. What you're typically doing is aggregating various bits of data in order to allow you to track and manage key KPIs. Now there are lots of them, and I don't think it really matters what KPIs your business cares about the most, but what is important is that the information that's delivered to you is done in real time, it's accurate, and particularly if you're providing solutions for site teams, it has to be made available offline. And what Mercury Engineering will be talking about specifically is around some site apps they've built for their teams to manage productivity on site. So what I'll do now is just pass over to Philip to take you through that.
Good morning, everyone. Philip Adams here from Mercury. Have you passed control over to me, Rob?
Yeah, you should have it now, yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time this morning to join Rob and myself on this webinar. I hope you find it useful and beneficial. And Rob has given a good introduction, I guess, how Mercury have used the Neptune platform to meet some of the key challenges that not just construction industry faces, but often many industries as well. I'm just going to take approximately 10 minutes to, first of all, give you a brief background to who Mercury are, just to set the scene and the context, outline our core business priorities. which ultimately will drive everything we do in our business, and especially in terms of the technology strategy we have in the organization. We'll spend a bit of time talking about the particular enterprise application that we developed with Neptune and where we see this platform bringing other enterprise applications to our business in the future. So who are Mercury? If you haven't heard of us, we're a large engineering services company. We're headquartered in Dublin, but we operate and have done projects in 31 countries globally. Last year, we had revenues of just under 900 million euro, and presently we're working concurrently in various projects throughout Europe. The services we provide to the construction industry can be as a subcontractor providing mechanical and electrical, fire protection and ICT services, or also as a main builder. And the industries that we operate in and the clients that we work for are in industries such as enterprise and hyperscale data centers, pharmaceutical, life sciences, healthcare, and building services. Rob highlighted in one of his earlier slides there that a major part of the cost to our business and essentially how we do our business is centered so much on our labour force. In various countries, we have a very large direct labour force. In other countries, it's mainly a subcontractor labour force. And when it comes to our direct labour force, it's important for us because it's such a major cost element to our business, but yet is the backbone of how we deliver the services to our client. It's important that we, first of all, provide them the right tools, but also they operate in a very efficient and cost-effective manner. So measuring that productivity across the business to ensure that our business priorities are met is critical to us. Finance is ultimately important. Cash flow is critical in our business, especially when the margins are tight. We need to drive efficiency where possible, not just for the benefit of Mercury, but also the various contractors and clients that we work with. We seek to drive innovation where possible within the organization, again, not just for our own benefit, but also to allow and empower our workforce and actually retain and recruit the best people. Because we're such a people-oriented business, it's important that we provide good, solid technology solutions to the right people at the right time, where appropriate and relevant. And probably most importantly of all, safety is paramount within our organization. So that's always at the underlying thread that we need to apply to everything that we deliver. But like any other business, it really is all about the business process, the people delivering that process, and the technology underpinning it. I'd like now just to briefly talk about the specific initial application that we developed with Neptune by outlining the business challenge. Technology wasn't new to Mercury. The fact that we deployed the Neptune application and platform wasn't the first enterprise application that we developed. We had many of these applications, but they tended to be in the back office element within our business. So we have been running large ERP systems and various other enterprise cloud-based applications within the organization, but they tend to be focused and targeted towards key business people, project managers, senior engineers, and so forth. And we wanted to, as part of our overall transformation within the organization, to get technology down to other levels within our company, to the site staff, to the people wearing the hard hats, the high-vis vests who are delivering the job for our client. We recognized that although this workforce would be mobile proficient probably in their personal lives, they weren't used to using business technology applications for their business and their day-to-day jobs. So we needed to make sure that it was easy for them to use. It replaced and optimized existing manual process that they were used to or were frustrated with, that it sped things up, that it delivered not just benefit to them, but ultimately benefit to the business. As I said, because our business relies very heavily in various projects on a large labour force, measuring the productivity of that labour force is critical. And from a business perspective, we wanted to be able to allocate the labour hours by work breakdown structure. On a very large project, we could have up to 6,000 elements, small individual work packages, and people will be assigned to deliver the job for the client in these work packages, and we needed to be able to measure at a very accurate level the hours being consumed to deliver that project, so that we could measure not just the productivity for the overall project, but right down to those individual levels, measured accurately so that we could do something about it if it wasn't going well, that if it was going well, how do we know what we were doing right, but also to help drive back that information and insight to the bid and tender process to make sure that we can competitively bid for future projects. From an IT perspective, it was critical that we found a solution that would integrate with our existing technology stack, that would be easy to support and maintain. And to Rob's earlier point around the whole low code or no code, that was critical so that we could get up and running fairly quickly, and we could get the in-house skills to run and maintain the solution. Integration was important to us, security was important to us, and the typical user interface was absolutely critical, because nowadays the workforce won't be happy with clunky, non-intuitive systems, so it needed to be easy for them to use, because without them using it, we were never going to get the benefit. In terms of the selection process, what was probably first and foremost in my mind was a lot of the source data for what we were trying to use was coming from our SAP ERP system. And the application that we wanted to develop was capturing information, was processing an element of that information and feeding that back to SAP. So the integration with SAP was critical. So that was one of the key reasons why we selected the Neptune platform, because of that seamless integration with SAP. Also, because it can work in an online and offline capability, it allowed us to customize it, but yet keep the core elements there so that it was easy to use, support, and maintain into the future. The overall project took 6 months, but the 6 months probably included an awful lot of exploration and process redesign within our own area. Although we already had a labour allocation process in place, it was using elements of technology, it was using bits of paper, it had a lot of manual tasks. So we wanted not just to automate it to speed it up, but we also wanted to improve the process as well. So there was a lot of process redesign and a sort of an agile approach in the early days to look at the platform. How could the platform best be used and modified to meet our needs, thoroughly test it, and then get that pilot up and running? In reality, we probably didn't complete design until January, but to indicate to you how quickly then we were able to develop it, test it, and deploy it, that ran in less than 3 months. Another key aspect of the project was the partnership we had with existing partners and new partners. So it was the first time that we were using the Neptune platform, but because of that integration with SAP, we wanted to basically use the expertise within our current SAP partner, Client Solutions, to help drive the efficiencies, not just within the Neptune part of the application, but also within the backbone of the SAP system. It was important that the SAP system provided all the relevant data, that data was accurate, it was reliable, and when the data came back from the Neptune application back into SAP, that we could use that data further. So it was very much a collaboration effort between Neptune Client Solutions and Mercury to develop this solution. We'll just spend a few minutes now just to show you what the application looks like and what it does for the foreman and the crew working on our construction site. So it met our first objective. As you can see, it's a mobile friendly application. We'll be able to deploy this on both Android and on iOS. And when a foreman logs on in the morning using single sign-on, he's presented with 2 tiles. One which will have a productivity score based on the data he submitted the previous week, and the top tile, his ability to capture his labour allocation across his job. Now, as I said earlier, we could have up to 6,000 work packages associated with a large construction job, these work breakdown structure. We also could have upwards of 2,000 people working on the construction job. So presenting the right information to the right foreman was paramount. So again, that's why the integration with not just the application, but with SAP was critical to us, because all that data, the org structure, the work breakdown packages, the hours from the clocks, the real-time hours that are coming in, all sits within SAP. And that all needed to be presented back, relevant for information to the foreman, so that he wasn't scrolling through endless lists of people which weren't relevant to him, or endless work breakdown structures which weren't relevant. So it's easy for him, therefore, to record the hours for his crew members by work breakdown structure. It needed to be intuitive in such a way that he could allocate core hours, overtime hours. He could see where he's over allocated or under allocated, and allowed him, of course, the opportunity to change it in case he made a mistake. He's able to do this on the fly while walking through the construction site. He no longer needs to carry a bit of paper, take notes, walk back to the site office and update this on a laptop or a PC at the end of the day, or even at worst, the next day or 2 or 3 days later. He's able to do it real time on the site. He's also able to do it in an online and an offline mode as well. So it empowers him to basically, and it's non-intrusive to his day job, and empowers him not just to be able to capture this information, but also see the output from it in terms of that productivity score. The application has been a success for the company. It's been a success across those 3 core pillars, those 3 stakeholders that we identified earlier. From a site staff perspective, it's an easy to use application. They feel empowered. They don't feel hindered by having to do some tasks that they don't see value in. They're able to save time because they're not walking back and forth to the site office to record that information. And it's brought technology down to a lower level in our organization. As I said earlier, Mercury really do pride themselves on being not just innovative in terms of the applications we use as a business, but the applications we're putting in the hands of the construction worker, a traditional workforce which probably weren't heavy users of technology. But again, it has to be appropriate and relevant and add value back to the business. And from the business perspective, we have real-time information around our productivity. We've good visibility on that. We're able to identify where we have challenges of poor productivity and fix it, and where we are doing very well and replicate it, and yet add that and from an overall project perspective, feed that back into future work. From my perspective, from an IT perspective, I have happy customers, a happy engaged site staff, a business which see value in the solution, and a lot of time and efficiency saved. And yet it's easy for us to maintain, it's easy for us to develop further, and it integrates with our core SAP ERP system. Due to the success of this enterprise application, we're constantly developing it. We are about to go live with historical data within the application so that the foreman can see the trend of their productivity over time. And we're looking to develop it even further, whereby we can capture unproductive hours. Not every hour that you deliver on a job, on a construction, can be productive. You can allocate to that work breakdown structure. There are a lot of factors which mean you have tools down for whatever reason, and you need to be able to capture that and understand the impact that that has on our job and ultimately on our margin. Future applications that we foresee that we can develop on the Neptune platform in conjunction with ourselves and client solutions would be around mobile goods receipting for the storeman, or when materials arrive to site. And also how we manage our billing and approvals with our clients and also on our subcontractors. It's really basically mobilizing elements of our SAP system, putting that on a device so that the information is in the hands of the workforce walking through a construction site. That's all I had to cover off in relation to the application we developed, and I'll hand back now to Rob, and we're available, of course, at the end for questions if need be. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Philip. We'll just wrap up, and then yeah, happy to take questions. So we've talked, you know, a lot about, you know, the need to increase productivity and the need to protect our margins. I think there certainly are over industry pressures. You know, this concept of businesses following a best of breed approach and as Philip said, to provide the best tools to the people for their particular role. And this is great in terms of productivity, but what it does is put pressure on the enterprise or the IT teams to actually have a way to integrate all of this data. The world has, of course, now changed, and mobility is even more important, having access to information wherever you are on whatever device you use. And there's much more competition, and we need to look at innovative ways for us to differentiate our service offerings. We've seen that profit margins are being squeezed, so we need to do all that we can to protect those margins and increase productivity. And again, Philip alluded to it within his organization, but having a different workforce, you've got new people coming into the business, and if you want to attract the best talent, you need to have the best technology available. And the pace of change, not just in technology, but in the way that businesses are evolving themselves, and having the technology in place to allow you to respond to those changes. A couple of really brief examples then, just in terms of other areas our platform may help. As I mentioned earlier, I spent quite a lot of time in various different construction businesses talking about the different types of technology they used, and they had a lot of different systems which were often not integrated, which meant that a lot of time was wasted, data was duplicated, there was a risk of inaccurate data, and directors or managers had a real challenge in terms of getting that bird's eye view. So by using Neptune, you can put, I guess, a blanket over all of those areas in order to deliver one friendly looking user interface for all of that information. The final example, and probably one of my favorites, and hopefully one that everyone can relate to, is a project creation process. And I'll start the animation now because it's going to take some time. But the amount of places that people had to enter information in just to get a project off the ground and started. And this would apply to any professional services business or construction company. So there's the need to update a CRM system or a spreadsheet. We then have to create that in a project system. We've then got a scheduling or resourcing system. We need to notify the people that are actually on the project team. Of course, they need to be on our finance system so that we can actually bill the client. And we've got lots of documentation and drawings, so we need a place for that. So one simple example would potentially be to build one app that was available on any device, available offline, which just automatically updated all of those various systems and notified the people that were on the project team. So 3 takeaways. Mobility is key. We need technology available wherever we are, and we need it available offline. There is lots of opportunity. We just need to innovate in order to take advantage of that opportunity. And we need to do it quickly, and we need the technology in place to involve more stakeholders to make sure that the solution is a success. So we'll wrap up for questions now. We'd love to engage more with you, whether that would be through an informal discussion where we can have a chat about your business processes and how the platform might help. Please opt in. We often send useful white papers or information for you to read more about. If you are in operations or IT and you'd like to actually have a go with the platform, then head on to our website and you can download a free trial and actually start building apps, which I think is really useful if you're trying to generate a business case for those decision makers and show them what the app might look like. And of course, stay in touch and please sign up for future webinars. We tend to hold them once a month. So that's it from me. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. I can't see any at the moment. There's no audio for anyone that's watching the webinar. So if you do have questions, then please type them into the box now. We'll hold on for a few more minutes, and if there's no questions, we'll close the webinar. Okay, so there's a few questions that are coming in. There is one that's been asked: does Neptune software integrate with any other ERPs? Well, the answer quite simply is yes. We have a lot of ways in which to integrate with different systems. You know, I know there's businesses on the call that might be using Delta or Oracle. So yes, it's nice and easy to integrate with other applications. There's a question I think that's probably best that you might answer, Philip, and that is, what is the workflow for productivity on site?
So from a business process perspective, we measure productivity, and this is primarily down to labour productivity. It's a measure of the labour hours by the hours we can effectively bill on what we've earned as per our planned budget. And the optimum score naturally is 1. So if it's above 1, you are spending more hours than you had budgeted to do, and if it's below 1, you're less. And because we wanted to use real-time hours, the workflow originates from, first of all, the hours that the crew members, labour force, clock in from the site. So once they're on site, they're on for 8 hours a day, maybe 10 hours a day. Some of that could be normal time, some of that could be time and a half. That's all captured through our clock and our time administration system. And then essentially that data then flows into the LAR process. So those are the hours then that have to be allocated by work breakdown structure. That's done on a daily basis using the application back into the SAP ERP system. And then on a weekly basis, the planners will update the earned element. In other words, how much progress we believe we've made in terms of the closure of the work breakdown packages, and therefore what were the budgeted hours against that. And essentially that data is all within SAP, and that calculates that score. So the workflow flows through that process using those different mechanisms: the clock hours, time administration, managed within the SAP application, captured through the allocation, captured through the app, and then the planners uploading the productivities or earned values to generate the calculation. I hope that answers the question from a workflow perspective.
There's just another question here, which says, what graph does that all feed back on, or is it updated manually by the planners?
Because from a planning perspective, we use various different tools, and some of that can be mandated by either the client and various other contractors on site. So that's one area we're looking to streamline into the future. But we do have a core template that we use within Mercury, or the planners use, and it's very much driven again by that budget. We've an automated process, so whatever system they're using from a planning perspective, we can generate an output from that, which is in the format that we require, which is uploaded automatically into our SAP system. So although the planning element can be done in different applications, done by different people and different mechanisms, those applications will generate an output, which is standard, which we require to be uploaded into SAP. So once the planning element has been done, the rest of it, the process is automated.
Great, thanks, Philip. So I think we've answered all of the questions now. feel free to keep sending them in if there is still more. Okay, there's another question. Philip, I'll probably let you answer that one as well. What are the benefits of Neptune versus Fury?
Well, Fury would have been one we have naturally looked at. We still run SAP EC6, so we're not on the HANA platform yet, which limited the opportunity we had for Fury. The other challenge as well, Fury really only has native apps, and you don't have, at this point in time, a lot of opportunity to modify those native apps beyond what they're designed to do. And essentially, this labor allocation report process is somewhat probably unique, not just to Mercury, but to construction industry. It really isn't, it was bespoke within our SAP system to begin with. So, we couldn't find a native Fury app which was did a similar function. And that's why we went down the path then at looking at a platform which would allow us to develop the application, but also integrate seamlessly with SAP. And the second core thing as well is that we wanted to have a platform which allowed us to develop other applications. So every time we address a business process that we want to mobilize, Fury, of course, will be the first place we will look, but at least now we've got a platform that allows us to customize and develop our own applications if there isn't an answer within Fury. And having those two opportunities allows us then to meet any unique business requirement, but yet not be introducing lots of different solutions which either don't talk to each other or I have to manage, which just overly complex, creates a complex environment.
Brilliant. Thanks again for that. Okay, we'll hold on for another minute or so if anyone's got any final questions. We will review all of these questions at the end, and we know who's answered them. So we will send a bit more of a response after the session as well. Another question. Where can I find more technical information about the way Neptune behaves working with offline, in particular with SAP? So I'll take that one. There's quite an extensive community portal available on the Neptune website, and that provides a lot of documentation about the platform. There's also some complementary e-learning training courses. So I'll certainly send that across to the person that asked that question, but we're also more than happy to have a direct conversation with you to explain that in a little bit more detail. Okay, so no more questions coming in. We will follow up with you after the webinar, and of course, if you've got any further questions, or if your questions haven't been answered properly, then please feel free to get in touch. Apart from that, thanks to everyone that's attended. I hope you've found the session useful, and have a nice day. Thanks.